Yahoo Fantasy Auto Racing, Tucson Racing Group, Week 16 action. The Toyota Save Mart 350 from the Infineon Raceway in Sonoma, California. The NASCAR boys went road course racing this week. A lot of differences in the results once everything shook out. A wild race, very much a short track race in many aspects. Lots of wrecks, lots of beating and banging, and definitely a wild finish to top all finishes for sure. The race winner this week on the 11-turn road course was Jimmie Johnson. Picks up his first career road course victory, his first victory since they added the spoiler back to the car, removing the wing from the car a few races back. He was followed up by Robbie Gordon out of Group C, Kevin Harvick, Kasey Kahne, and Jeff Gordon rounded out the top 5. In the points standings in NASCAR, Kevin Harvick still holds a points lead. It's now 140 over Jimmie Johnson, who jumps up 4 spots to second, and Kyle Busch, after a terrible day today, is now third in points, 141 back. Race notes, Kasey Kahne won the pole on Friday. He ran great all day long. Jimmie Johnson, though, was able to lead lap 1 and wound up dominating much of this race. Him and Marcos Ambrose were really the class of the field all day. Differing strategies led to wild racing. There were people on a 2 pit stop strategy trying to run the entire race with just 2 pit stops. Other people were trying to run it on 3 pit stops. This led to complete confusion as to who was up front and when. People running different strategies basically meant you never really knew where it was going to shake out until there was 10-15 laps to go. There was a lap 10 wreck that ruined Kyle Busch's day. He was not doing well from the start of the weekend, but he got caught up in a wreck early. It caved in his front end and ruined his splitter. He wound up behind the wall. They had to put a new front end on the car, and he was never in contention all day long. The Ambrose versus Johnson battle was fantastic on the racetrack. These two guys, with their different pit strategies, wound up near each other on the racetrack almost all day. Nobody else could even touch them as far as consistency and car setup. Jeff Gordon, he was big today for a lot of negative reasons. He punted Martin Truex Jr. He raced Juan Pablo Montoya really hard and really rough. He wound up spinning out Elliott Sadler and Clint Bowyer. He also had a very nasty battle with Kurt Busch with a few laps to go. Gordon had nothing but apologies at the end of this one for some of his on-track behavior. Boris Said and Matthias Ekstrom both ran well today. Those are road course ringers. You won't see them at the oval tracks, but they were brought in to run this particular racetrack and possibly Watkins Glen later on this season. Those two guys had great runs all day long. Ekstrom wound up 21st because he got spun, but Boris Said got a top 10. He actually led some laps as well as Ekstrom, so it was great to see those road course ringers up front and running well. A lap 67 pileup on a restart. A couple people near the front didn't quite take off. The people in the back didn't know any better, ran them over. It was nothing more than your basic traffic accident on any Tucson street. This brought out a red flag as they had the entire track blocked, and it took out Martin Truex, who unfortunately was in the back because of Jeff Gordon's incident with him. Also took out Denny Hamlin, who had an absolutely awful day. You'll want to look up the footage where he drives the road course with his hood over his windshield. Just absolutely talented the way he was able to get the car back to pit road with that incident. But this wreck took him out for good. And Sam Hornish Jr. was the worst for wear after this wreck as well. Brought out the red flag for a few minutes. Once they got back underway, the racing was even harder and even more beating and banging was going on the track. Joey Logano got spun. That meant that Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano, the 3-man group from Joe Gibbs Racing, they had a horrible day on the racetrack today. Joe Gibbs Racing just did not come to play this week. Brad Keselowski definitely ruffled a few feathers. He got wrecked himself. He took himself out by messing up one of the turns and hitting the tire barrier. Through pit strategy, he wound up restarting second. He wrecked the race leader, ran him off into the dirt. That was Boris Said at the time. Said recovered. He then banged doors with Marcos Ambrose as Ambrose was trying to go for the lead, and then spun out Matthias Ekstrom, who was running top 10 at the time. So Keselowski did not make any friends this week. In fact, it probably got even score-wise with David Gilliland. Gilliland actually punted Keselowski, leading to the final caution of the race, which set up a wild turn of events. Marcos Ambrose leading the race with less than 10 laps to go under caution. For some reason, he was trying to save fuel, possibly hoping that the race would go to a green-white checker scenario in overtime, and he might need some extra gas for those laps. But by all accounts, he shouldn't have needed the extra fuel. He was cutting off his engine and coasting. Unfortunately, when you cut your engine off and coast, you don't always get it to turn on right away. Under caution, the car stalled. He did not maintain yellow flag pace. He wound up restarting 7th because NASCAR penalized him, said you cannot stop under the yellow. You have to maintain the speed of the pace car. That gave Jimmie Johnson the lead with under 10 laps to go, and the race was done from there. Ambrose could only get back up to 6th place. Johnson ran away with the finish. So a terrible mistake by Marcus Ambrose costs him his first victory of the season. Jimmie Johnson winds up with his first road course victory and his 51st win all time. Taking a look at the Tucson Racing Group action, this week's winner in Week 16, 5th win of the season for High, Wide, and Handsome, 317 points. Handsome got 3rd place Kevin Harvick, 5th place Jeff Gordon, 6th place Marcus Ambrose to go with 10 bonus points from Casey Kane for winning the pole, and Paul Menard picking up a 22nd place finish for the best score this week. A 29-point victory for Handsome over 2nd place Lightning McQueen with 288 points. McQueen had 3 drivers in the top 10. Robbie Gordon out of Group C got 2nd, best C driver for sure. Tony Stewart was 9th. Marcus Ambrose was 6th. Had Joey Logano, who was running in the 20s until he got spun out. He wound up 33rd, but the rest of the drivers picked up for Logano's slack. 3rd this week was The Wall Always Wins with 272 points, 45 points out of 1st this week. This team had 3 drivers in the top 10 as well. Robbie Gordon led the way for 2nd place. Casey Kane was 4th. Juan Montoya out of Group A was 10th. And Martin Truex Jr. brought this team down. Unfortunately, Truex wound up 42nd, being taken out in the wreck. So that definitely hurt this team's chances of taking the victory this week. Truex was actually running top 10 until Gordon got into him, and then he was taken out in the wreck. 4th this week was Hulk Smash, 260 points, 57 points out of 1st place this week. Hulk Smash had 2 drivers in the top 10. That was Jeff Gordon 5th and Marcus Ambrose 6th. Had Paul Menard in 22nd out of Group C, and then Clint Boyer, who was running top 10 until he was wrecked in an accident that was caused by Jeff Gordon. Boyer wound up 31st. Rounding out the top 5 this week, a top 5 for Greek Thunder. Greek wound up at 235 points, 82 points out of 1st this week. Greek had 2 drivers out of Group B who got top 5s. Kevin Harvick in 3rd and Casey Kane in 4th. Put Carl Edwards in. Edwards wound up 29th. He run the road course race at the Nationwide Series event the day before on Saturday. Edwards was actually running pretty well, but he got dumped near the end of the race, and you don't have time to make up all that ground. He wound up 29th out of Group A. Disappointing finish for Edwards. And then Sam Hornish, as we documented, taken out in that big pileup that brought out the red flag. He wound up 36th. 6th this week was Team Edwards, the driver, 199 points. That was 118 points out of 1st this week. Not a very good performance for Edwards, Team Edwards. The best driver on this team was Dale Earnhardt Jr., who got 11th, a surprising 11th place finish for a driver who is admittedly not very good at the road courses. Then David Rudiman was 20th, Paul Menard 22nd, and Denny Hamlin was 34th. So Team Edwards really struggled to put up the points this week. 7th was Whoa, a left turn. Didn't start anybody in Group A that had any starts left, so 0 points out of Group A. Started Dale Earnhardt Jr., has 0 starts left for him, so 0 points from Jr. Had 2 drivers for points. That was Scott Speed in 18th out of Group C. And then from Group B, Jeff Burton, who got 27th due to some difficulties on track. He only got 94 points as a team this week, 223 out of 1st. 8th place this week. Huge disappointment. Oh no, a blowout. 8th this week, again not setting the lineup, only earning points for Paul Menard, who got 22nd, and then 1 qualifying bonus point from Kevin Harvick for a total of 49 points this week, 268 points lost to the leader. And then 9th was Kane Rules, who yet again failed to pick a driver who is eligible. In the overall standings, High, Wide, and Handsome now has 4,536 points. That's a 255-point lead over Lightning McQueen, who is now 2nd after taking a 1-point lead over 3rd place Hulk Smash. So those 2 teams are definitely duking out for 2nd place. Still very much in touch with the leader overall. 4th right now is The Wall Always Wins at 437 points out of 1st. And 5th, Team Edwards is now top 5, 614 points out of 1st. Rounding out the field, Oh No, a blowout, 686 back. Greek Thunder is 703 points back. Whoa, a left turn is now 943 points out. And Kane Rules is now over 2,000 points out of 1st place. Next week, Week 17 action, the Lennox Industrial Tools 301. from the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. It's a mile flat track up in Loudon, New Hampshire. Your pool for drivers is going to lock Friday at 2 a.m., and your starters are going to lock at 10:10 a.m. on Sunday. So we'll hope to see you back next week, next Sunday, for Week 17 action in the Tucson Racing Group.